Ambassador Crixth adjusted his crystalline breathing apparatus as he entered the Senate chamber, his 6 legs clicking against the polished obsidian floor. The circular hall buzzed with conversations in dozens of languages, each species represented by their most distinguished diplomats. Today would mark the end of the human problem once and for all. "The motion stands before us," announced Chancellor Vexnar, her melodic Altarian voice carrying across the vast chamber. "Economic sanctions, trade blockades, and technological restrictions against the human homeworld of Earth. All in favor?" Tentacles, claws, and appendages of every conceivable shape rose in unanimous agreement. 347 votes. 0 against. The humans weren't even present to defend themselves. They had been deemed too primitive for Senate membership despite their recent arrival in galactic politics. Crixth smiled with satisfaction. The humans had been nothing but trouble since they'd achieved faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. Unlike every other species that had joined galactic civilization with appropriate reverence and submission, humans had arrived with demands. They wanted fair trade agreements. They questioned established hierarchies. They refused to accept the caste system that had maintained galactic order for millennia. Most infuriating of all, they kept winning. When the Zephyrian Trading Consortium tried to cheat them on dilithium prices, the humans had simply found ways to synthesize it themselves. When the hegemony of worlds attempted to monopolize shipping lanes, humans developed quantum tunnel drives that bypassed them entirely. Every time the established powers tried to put these upstart mammals in their place, humanity found a way around, over, or through the obstacles. "The blockade begins immediately," Chancellor Vexnar declared. "No ships to or from the Sol system. No technology transfers. No trade agreements. We will remind these humans of their proper place in the galactic order." 3 months later, Crixth sat in his luxurious office aboard the enforcement station overlooking Earth's solar system. The blue-green planet hung in space like a jewel, apparently serene despite the iron ring of blockade ships surrounding it. Surely the humans were suffering by now. Their primitive economy must be collapsing without access to galactic markets and technology. His communication array chimed. A message from Earth, the first since the blockade began. "Greetings to the Galactic Senate," came a voice in accented but fluent galactic standard. The speaker was a middle-aged human female with graying hair and determined eyes. "This is Director Sarah Chen of the Earth Unified Government. We wanted to thank you." Crixth's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Thank them?" "Your blockade has been educational," Chen continued. "We've learned some interesting things about ourselves these past few months. For instance, did you know that when you corner humans, they get creative?" The transmission cut to images that made Crixth's breathing apparatus fog with shock. Massive orbital stations, clearly of human construction but unlike anything in galactic databases. Ships that seemed to fold space around themselves. Industrial complexes that dwarfed anything the Senate members had built. "You see," Chen's voice continued over the impossible imagery, "you made a fundamental error. You assumed we needed you, but humans have never needed anyone's permission to survive, to grow, or to thrive. We've been doing it on one little planet, for thousands of years through ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have broken other species." More images flashed. Humans working in environments that should have been lethal, building with materials that shouldn't exist, solving problems that had stumped galactic science for centuries. "Your blockade didn't break us. It freed us from the limitations you convinced us we had. We've spent 3 months rediscovering what humans do best, adapting, innovating, and refusing to quit when someone tells us something is impossible." Crixth watched in growing horror as the tactical display updated. The human ships weren't just defending anymore. They were moving outward, past the blockade line, heading for the outer system. His instruments detected energy signatures that were completely unknown. "We've also had time to study your blockade fleet," Chen said, and now there was something in her voice that made Crixth's exoskeleton shiver. "Impressive ships, powerful weapons, all based on technology that's at least 2 centuries old by galactic standards. We wondered why an advanced civilization would use such outdated equipment. The answer hit Crixth like a meteor impact: complacency. The Senate species had grown comfortable, reliant on established technology and hierarchies. They hadn't truly innovated in centuries because they hadn't needed to. They'd simply maintained their positions through political maneuvering and economic pressure. Humans, on the other hand, had never stopped fighting for survival. So here's our proposal. Chen continued. The blockade ends now. The Senate opens. Equal trade negotiations with Earth within the week. In return, we won't demonstrate what 3 months of dedicated human innovation can accomplish when you make it personal. As if summoned by her words, space around the enforcement station began to shimmer. Crixth's sensors screamed warnings as dozens of human ships materialized from nowhere, their weapon systems powered and locked onto his position. You wanted to break us, Chen said, her image now flanked by what were clearly human military commanders. But here's the thing about humans that you never bothered to learn: we don't break. We bend, we adapt, we overcome. And when someone tries to break us, the weapon locks intensified, and Crixth realized that every Senate ship in the system was now targeted. We break them instead. The transmission ended. For a long moment, the only sound in Crixth's office was the hum of his breathing apparatus and the increasingly frantic beeping of proximity alarms. Then his communication array lit up with incoming messages from every Senate member in the system. Panicked voices in dozens of languages, all asking the same questions. How had the humans done this? What were they supposed to do now? Crixth looked out at Earth, no longer seeing a primitive world to be controlled, but a planet full of creatures who had just reminded the galaxy of a fundamental truth. Never mistake patience for weakness, never confuse cooperation for submission, and never ever try to break something that has spent its entire existence learning how to be unbreakable. 3 days later, the Galactic Senate voted unanimously to end the blockade and extend full membership to Earth. It was, after all, the only sensible thing to do.